Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is your host, Pawan Majumdar, associated with eVidyaloka as Director, Volunteer Management. And what other occasion is better than today to connect with all our volunteers? Associated with eVidyaloka as Director, Volunteer Management. And what better an occasion than today to connect, recognize, inspire all you volunteers, real world heroes who have been contributing to this Mission Impossible. So theme for this day is Mission Impossible, and all our volunteer teachers are the real world heroes of this Mission Impossible. 7 years back, eVidyaloka started on its mission to enable quality education to the rural children. Then we had challenges like, will this technology-based education work? Will people accept, connect to this concept and support? Do you get internet connectivity? Will the bandwidth be an issue in these remote places? And many more. But team from eVidyaloka took this Mission Impossible head on and have accomplished 7 successful years with this impossible mission into possible. So we continue to join more such missions going forward. Having said that, we would not have completed these missions without the real heroes being a part of it, that is our volunteers. So this occasion calls for a connect, recognition, celebration, and further to inspire these real world heroes. So without further ado, we will start with lighting of the lamp and invocation song by Ranganai. I would request Swapna to join us and read the lamp. We can now join. Are we? Yeah. Yeah, please.
I didn't realize actually. No problem. Vandana Aiki can join us as well.
Yeah. She should write the first one. Total target audience.
Yes. Yes.
Now we have the invocation song from Ranganai.
Good morning. Vakratulya Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha Nirvighnan Kuru Me Deva Sarvakayeshu Sarvata Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Tasmai पूजिता तावा पातु सरस्वती भगवती ईशेषजाड्यापहा ईशेषजाड्यापहा
Thank you.
Now, I'll just give you all a brief structure on this program today. We are doing this as an eTeacher's Day, that is, we are doing this celebrations online. So today we have with us our esteemed speaker, Mr. Haragopal. Then we have Mr. Vishwanathan and Ram Kumar on the dais here. Our keynote speaker, Mr. Sonam Wangchuk, is joining us straight from Ladakh, Jammu and Kashmir, India. We have 6 panel members joining us across from the globe, and all the volunteers who share the spotlight this day joining us live from YouTube. And one more thing which I would like to inform you all is that if you have any questions for the speakers or the panel, you can please key it on the chat option right next to the YouTube live video screen. So now we can start, and I would like to now ask Mr. Vishwanathan, Chairman of eVidyaloka Trust, to share his thoughts on the journey of eVidyaloka so far. So please welcome me in joining Mr. Vishwanathan to address.
Thank you, Pavan. Good morning, everyone. It's immense pleasure. We do this every year, and every year I get goosebumps doing this because when we started in 2011, the first class when we did in Tamil Nadu, it was Venkat and the other co-founder Satish, which started off as an experiment for their friend in a village where the Pyre Trust, which was doing an experiment of making a holistic village, when they were doing that, they were wanting good teachers, and Satish and Venkat started off as saying, okay, let us teach those children, right? And then they realized the power of this online teaching that can reach these parts of India, right? And now here we are in 2018. We are about to celebrate this year 1 million teaching hours to children. Right? Just saying that makes me feel humbled that such a small thought can become a vision and then being executed so well throughout the years. Of course, this would not have happened with the volunteers who are the backbone of what we deliver. And what other day to celebrate and recognize their efforts than Teachers' Day. And we continue to innovate. So eTeacher's Day, where we celebrate Teachers' Day online, is another innovation which has been going on for 6 years. So it's just amazing to see that the community grow and continue to volunteer. And we have so many volunteers who've been teaching for us for many years continuously. So if you think about it, people teaching for 4 years, 5 years on this platform kind of gives you an idea of what they derive from teaching these children, right? While the direct beneficiary of this organization is child, we believe that the indirect beneficiary is the volunteers also, right? Because they get to interact with children on a daily basis, sitting in the comfort of their homes, and then understand the aspirations and also kindle the aspirations of the children from whatever limited exposure they have to a different plane, so that they can inspire the next generation of India to the next level, right? And that in turn benefits them to opens them up to the different world which they are right now belong, which is the urban world in India, right? They actually get to interact with rural India, understand the limitations of what the rural India, and as well as the potential of rural India, and that is immense benefit, I believe, for the volunteers. And we hope this community continues to grow and help us in attaining this mission impossible, making this mission impossible possible. Okay. Thank you everyone for doing this day in and day out, and let us reach many more million hours of child learning. Okay. Thank you everyone.
Thank you.
I would like to now invite Mr. Haragopal, founder, CEO of Finino and ex-SVP Infosys, to welcome and address the forum. Okay, we would like to hear from you, sir. Thank you.
So, dear fellow teachers and the founding trustees of eVidyaloka and all the folks gathered here. In fact, congratulations on the 1 million. I didn't know that, that's amazing. And indeed, it's exciting and amazing that how you guys have pulled it off. And clearly, there's something about this place which makes me come back again and again and still feel so excited and looking forward to kind of this place. So first of all, happy Teachers' Day to all the folks out there teaching. I actually wanted to say fellow teachers because since yesterday I'm back to teaching myself. So whenever I say, I don't know, you all must be experiencing the same thing more so different professions or day jobs. If somebody calls you teacher, suddenly you start looking at who is she talking to, and then you associate, and then it still gives me goosebumps whenever somebody calls me a teacher, because it's an amazing privilege, and it's an amazing power to influence. And today I'm going to talk a few minutes about this. What it is to teach is to inspire. In fact, when I started teaching, in fact, when I was I got out of the college, I started teaching. I was maybe, not even 20, maybe just about 20 plus. And the age gap between me and my students was so less that, I was never in a faculty room. I was only playing with the students, and, that's what the principal wanted as well. So even I know the real bonding what a student and teacher would have, and all of you, I have seen some of you teaching online, and I know how tough it is to connect virtually with the students and still be able to bring the same amount of affection and connect with the students. And I know how you all would feel patting on the back of a student, or in fact, giving them that touch part of it. So in fact, talking about the power essentially of a teacher, one anecdote brings to mind what I had, like, when I was a 20-something teacher. One of my students walked up to me when I was moving out of the school, and he wanted me to autograph his t-shirt. And he was playing cricket, and I think he was playing cricket for Delhi or something as well, in under whatever age group it was. And I told him that, look, when you play for India, I'll come and take your autograph. And he said, fine, so later on, he did play for India. He actually captained India as well. And when I went to collect his autograph, actually, he started crying. And he said, look, do you still remember that? And that is the influence you can have. Because you are able to, I'm not saying that he became a captain of India or he played for India because I asked him, But the thing is that those aspirations, when we set an aspiration for them, they believe that, look, my teacher is older to me and she knows much more than I do. And if she believes that I can do this, obviously I will be able to do that. And that is the power of expectation or setting the aspirations, etc. I'm not saying that we should blindly set that, but essentially bringing in that belief part of it. So imagine each one of you who are teaching the students, you have an opportunity to set the expectation for an economist who is going to make the economic policy for India in 2040, or the cricket captain of World Cup winning cricket captain of 2029, or a neurosurgeon in 2035, or somebody, an entrepreneur who has gone into agriculture and he's producing bumper crop by bringing in innovation, and the list can go on. And imagine you talking to them today and telling them, look, this is an interesting thing, this is what we should be doing, or this is what we can do, etc. So, like I had an opportunity of talking to the future captain of Indian cricket team, I can't even go into a stadium today unless I really shell out money. But I had, as a 20-something, had an opportunity to have a conversation with the future cricket captain of Indian cricket team. And it's not just him alone, there are many more in that batch of couple of years I taught. So I think it's not beyond visualization, this power of influence. Like the adage goes, with power, or rather with great power comes great responsibility. What it means is, we as teachers, we have tremendous amount of responsibility in whatever we say, and more importantly, whatever we do. Right? And even more importantly, how we make the other person feel. Somebody said, others may forget what you said, others may forget how you looked, others may even forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. Right? So, when you are dealing with these young children, whether you are making them feel small, whether you are treating them as equals, whether you are treating them with respect, whether you are treating them as your future, whether you feel you are blessed to meet them, the future leaders today, before the world discovered them, and that all shows in your body language, and that gets conveyed, and that adds to their confidence. I think, somebody, one of my customers, many years back, a high street banker in UK, he told me this. Look, Hara, you can't not be a role model. You can only choose to be what kind of a role model you want to be. Good, bad, not so good, etc. Because you are being watched all the time. So same is the case whenever you go in front of your students, you're being watched. And it's not what you say, but it's the way how you say it. So I think it suffices to say that it's a great honor and opportunity to meet these young minds and interact with them and be able to define the future for ourselves, because I find many people trying to get access with the movers and shakers, trying to get a word, trying to influence, put a tweet, put a this, put a that, but you have all the time in the world. When you get older, you want to see what kind of a prime minister and what kind of a thing you want to say, that all those are possible. So I think I'll conclude with just bringing out one last aspect, that is in terms of our legacy part of it. Somebody asked me, in fact, yesterday I was starting my second inning, so to say, in teaching, so I am an adjunct professor now in IIM Bangalore. And somebody asked me, why is it that you're so excited about teaching? So I said, imagine all the great things and all the big achievers, what were they trying to do? Whether it was the emperors, scientists, statesmen, preachers, even business leaders, They all are trying to or were trying to leave their own legacy, which lives beyond their life and for generations, right? In fact, I was dining with a very famous bureaucrat and his wife, who's again a researcher and very well known. And they earn very paltry salary. And I asked, what makes you take it? They said that our ability to leave a great legacy for the country makes us do and endure various other things. So the need for creating your own legacy, a positive legacy, is inbuilt into all of us. Even a common man would always love to build a house and leave some valuables for his children and great grandchildren, right? And think of it, as a teacher, what kind of a legacy you are leaving? You have a powerful legacy, not just for one day or 1 week or one session or 1 year or even one generation beyond that. In fact, now after many years, after more than 30 years, when I see many of my ex-students, even now wishing me on a Teacher's Day, and when I see their accomplishments, I find that that was the best legacy I could ever leave. Not just the wonderful software products I was lucky to be associated with, created, which definitely outlived me, or the wonderful teams I built, which would definitely outlive me. But these ideas, which we discussed, somebody, being a editor in a famous daily, in terms of international affairs editor, or somebody being a surgeon, somebody making movies, somebody being Supreme Court, lawyer, fighting very big, constitutional issues. Each of these make me feel proud that, here is my legacy. I might not have contributed directly, but I have been able to vicariously influence these folks at an early stage, which is bringing these books. So I think it's a great opportunity to be a teacher, to extend your intellectual legacy beyond your confines. And I must congratulate all of you for choosing this. And as role models and as force multipliers, I would request you all to spread this joy of actually teaching to your connects and your friends. And that's where we can multiply, and this million hours should become a billion. And that's what we're talking about. And in a country like India, it's not impossible, it's needed. I think, I would like to really congratulate again eVidyaloka leadership team for this wonderful initiative and bringing all of us this opportunity. And thanks again for people who stayed up in different parts of the world and different time zones to be part of this. If you have any questions to me, or if there is anything, observations to me, I'd be happy to take that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I request all the viewers to post your questions on YouTube as we proceed further. So the first two questions we've got for you.
Okay.
One is from Anupama Gupta. It reads, "Good morning, Mr. Haragopal. You've been a change maker while working with Infosys and are a great leader. Can you give us some tips which can help us change lives of rural kids through online education?"
In fact, I saw in my first very visit to this place, I saw the joy, or rather thrill, and like Rishi called the goosebumps in a kid when he was actually being able to teach, interact with a teacher. He said he thought actually the other person was a robot or something, right? And so you know, I remember actually when I was a kid, it's still very, very vivid memory for me that all foreigners were made of something else. Seriously, as a kid, you know, they are not like me, you know. So it was so much of curiosity for me that pushed me to become and those days the chat and all these things were not there. So I took on to amateur radio just to DX with people across the continents. And how do they wake up? What do they eat? You know, because I grew up in a very small place and it used to be a big curiosity. I think in my personal view, curiosity is the biggest instrument for change, biggest instrument for development, biggest influence for betterment. And if you can instill that sense of curiosity into your students, there can't be anything better. In fact, again, last year I was part of the jury for the selection of the Teacher's Awards, and I was so pleasantly surprised with, I can't remember her name, she's 70 plus from Hyderabad, and she's almost as high as a small school student, but Lakshmi, yes. And at that age, she had some curiosity, which is 3 to 4 times of people 1/4 of her age. And so curiosity, like they say, what you read about the neuroplasticity, you know, mind doesn't age. So I think we need to demonstrate, and I always believe a magnet only can make another magnet. So of course we talk about electromagnets these days, you know, but essentially you can influence your students to be curious, but they are by nature, they are curious, and you can actually create the wow and aha moments every time you get into the class. And that's the only thing we all can do.
Okay. One last question. That is from Prasanna. Hi, I'm Prasanna from USA. This is most probably one of our volunteers. My question to Haragopal would be, what are the challenges that he faced when he was a teacher? And if you could share more of any such moments and experiences.
Oh, for me, being in the teacher's room was the most challenging thing. I just did not belong there, you know. So I used to, you know, sneak away into badminton court or library or cricket field or food court, etc. So other than that, you know, so I somehow, maybe I was too young, or even otherwise, even now also, you know, yesterday I couldn't sit in the faculty room. I was out there with the students. So the jokes apart, I think being able to, you know, I always had, you know, look, the whole opportunity of how do you make them feel part of it is very, very important. And I was very conscious of that. Like yesterday, for example, I can give fresh example. I had PGP students in Bangalore who are just out of the college. They didn't know what an office environment would look like in the classroom. And I had students who had more than 10 years of experience in leadership role, and all of them were in one classroom. And you know, students from different parts of the world, exchange students, etc. When you have a very diverse set of students, connecting with them is very important, and consciously you need to do that. And even in a classroom, of course, in your school, wherever you are teaching, don't assume that these students are homogeneous. They come from different backgrounds, even though socio-economic and geographical location could be the same, but the backgrounds are very diverse, depending on what their parents think, what their parents do, and you know what their grandparents think. You know, all these things are very important. So if there is one thing I would request you to look at is, don't think them as number, don't think them as children. Each one is Lakshmi, Karuna, Kishore, whatever it is, you know, so we cannot take them as one bunch. If you can connect with them, each one-on-one, that's the best thing. To my mind, you know, I think that's a challenge any teacher would face.
We've been getting a lot of questions.
I don't think we have time, right?
Yeah. Just one last. This is an interesting question since we are also we've taken online teaching to a different level now. Dr. Fatima asks, so 20 years from now, how would the schools in rural India look like? We have given a teaser now, at least for last 7 years.
Oh, I love it.
Maybe.
This is my favorite one, So always, see, one of the important things I always look at is the other day I met up with some students. They're not my students, actually, my wife's nieces. And in 9th grade or so, I was trying to be relevant to them because, then I can learn how the world would look like in 2030 or 2045, etc. Because once you reach a certain point, you can't think beyond a certain. If I meet people of my age group, many of them, they do not talk anything beyond 2025. 2025 looks pretty remote for them. But one thing I realize is that 2030 comes much more faster than what you think. Right? So that's what it is. Like, for example, the kind of goals I set for myself on 2012 or 2018 or even 2020, they are now so close. So I think 2030 is not very far. But the biggest change I look at from a student point of view is that the ability to choose. They would have tremendous amount of choice, whom, at what time, about what, etc. And I'm sure, all the BITS alumni, they had the first flavor of actually being able to choose your professors, right?
That's right.
So I used to wonder, what a way, man, So these guys get to choose their teachers. And, when I was in college, so I said, that's amazing, right? So now the choice, what you call the Starbucks experience in terms of the first time when you go to the US, you get overwhelmed with the coffee shop, saying that the pure amount of choices completely pull you out and say that, look, please, I want just a coffee. So like that, so students are, thanks to the information available now, they would have so many choices and they are so comfortable choosing, more importantly, that they would have a micro choice to go for, so they could choose a teacher who had this pedigree, who has done this kind of, work X, and who has taught these many students, and who has this temperament, and who is a morning person or an evening person, and then say that, look, I'm going to learn physics or a Newton's law from this person. And that would be great, right? Because, and each one of them being accessible. And that's what it is. Because today, our biggest problem is that they don't have choices. Many things are being thrusted on them, and they are not even aware that those are being thrusted on them. And it will be beautiful for them to have such choice.
Yeah. So since there are a lot of questions pouring in, we would consider all these questions in the end. For now, we will continue with the program in the interest of time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Harap. Now we have Mr. Sonam Wangchuk, a person who needs no introduction. And to start with, I would like to congratulate Sonam for his Ramon Magsaysay Award. So this award is equivalent of Nobel Prize in the Southeast Asia part. So in the interest of time, I'll just keep the intro short. Sonam is advisor at SecMol and also a founder and a person who started the HIAL, that is Himalayan Institute of Alternative Learning. So over to you, Sonam.
Hello and good morning from Ladakh. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So good morning and July as we greet in Ladakh. I'm connected to you from a little village in Ladakh at 3,500 meters, 11,500 feet. Wonderful connecting to so many of you working in the same field from different parts of the world. I wear many hats, but the one I'm most connected and I'm most proud of is being a teacher. And I write that everywhere I write, I'm a teacher above everything else. It was teachers actually in my life who saved my life and who enriched my life and who helped me do whatever little I can do today. There are particularly two incidents that turned me towards the importance of teaching and doing more and more in education later in life. The first one was very early. I'll share a little story about my own childhood. You can hear me fine? Yeah? You can hear me fine, right? Okay, good. So I was born in Ladakh, a very, very tiny village of some 5 households only. And I say always, today it is so much bigger. It's 100% bigger with 10 households. Yeah? So we didn't have a school, and therefore I didn't get to go to school. And in a way, I was spared a lot of difficult childhood that I saw others having, while I had a great time growing up and learning on the fields with farmers, with animals, with plants that miraculously grew from a little seed into a flowering plant, and I could see what leaves, roots, shoots were without having to memorize these words. And yet at 8.5, I was dragged into a school, and it became a very, very, very bitter experience after that. And it actually ended my true learning. So I have seen different kinds of teachers who made me feel the worst of me in me, and teachers who rescued me and made me feel great about myself and made me feel like doing more and more. So the first schools that I was taken, the teachers were very, very unsympathetic, and they couldn't understand that I came from a very different background. I didn't understand the language they spoke. I couldn't relate to the books. And yet, rather than understanding my problems, they would make me either stand on a bench or sit in the back row or stand outside the classroom for the whole period, as if that would help me more than keeping me right in front of them when I couldn't even understand what they were saying. So I always say that was the only way I was an outstanding student at that age. Yeah. Spent more of my time outside the classroom. That was a time when I really felt small and wondered why I had ever come to this earth as a burden. Why shouldn't I quit and all that? Then I ran away from that school. The good sense that prevailed was that I took charge of my own things and I ran away to another school in Delhi. At the age of 12, I just traveled alone, and it was more complicated than that. The bus I took met an accident and I had to change, I think, 5 buses. And I remember I couldn't even reach the ticket booth to see the face of the person selling the ticket. He would only see my hands asking for a ticket to the next city and the next. And finally, I got to Delhi to a school that was very interesting, very poorly equipped school by the government of India for the children from frontier areas, tribal areas, And I had difficulties getting admission there. First few days, many children were waiting to get admission. Again, I waited with them in a, what do you call, like a sarai, in a vihara. And then again, I took things in my own hands, went to the school rather than waiting for something to happen to the group, met the principal and I said, I want admission in your school. And he was so overwhelmed by this 12-year-old coming on his own that he said, you come from tomorrow, we'll admit you. So that was how I got into that school. And very interestingly, the teachers here were completely of a different kind. It was poorly equipped, but the teachers were as good or better than you would have your parents. They really were very caring, nurturing, would spend all the time beyond school hours in the school, helping children not only with books, but with music, extracurricular activities. And some of these teachers made me feel that I was not the nothing I was made to feel there. And they gave me hope that I could do something. Very soon, from being like at the verge of failure in each class, having come from this rough childhood, suddenly they made me feel that I was very good in science, I was very good in English, and they would help. They perhaps saw that I could do something. They perhaps saw beyond the broken language I spoke, because that was not me. Behind that, perhaps I was a curious child who could do much more, and they could see beyond the face and the broken language I spoke, and gave me all that it took. And very soon I started doing quite well in class, became one of the best in the class, and was encouraged to participate in debates and poetry and plays and theater of all kinds. And I started flowering. That's when I realized what teachers can do to children. You know, they can make you feel you're a burden on the earth, and they can make you feel you are chosen to do something very important in this world. So that was one experience that stayed in the back of my mind. I didn't quite understand at that time that I had to do something in education. much later, when I was doing my engineering, this is the second encounter with teaching and education. When I was doing my engineering, I had some financial issues with my family, and I decided to finance my engineering myself. And for that, I had to earn. And I couldn't do many things to earn at that age. So I chose to teach, which was a passion, because I loved science and maths. And I saw students in their 10th grade in Ladakh used to face lots of problems. They would fail by the thousands. 95% of the students every year used to fail in the board exams, the matriculation exams. And so I thought I could help teach some of these students, and that would finance my own engineering. So I went in my vacations from my engineering college to teach and earn, while my college would go on industrial tours all over the country. I took leave and went and taught. And during this teaching, things I saw changed my life forever. One thing I saw was that these students who were blamed for being good for nothing, they used to fail, as I said, 95% each time. And teachers who in those days mostly came from outside Ladakh, because we didn't have enough teachers, who didn't understand that it is a different culture, people speak a different language, and the books are full of examples that make no sense whatsoever in this context of high mountains with -20, -30 winters. Children are made to memorize F for fan. however would a child understand that a fan makes you feel cool? In -20, that's the last thing you want to feel. So, of course, this is one example, and it's full of such examples that children cannot relate and therefore used to fail, and they couldn't speak the language, express in the language. So I saw while teaching that there was nothing wrong with them. They were so bright, they were so curious. When taught in the ways they understand, they could understand every intricate physics, maths, whatever. So that was when I thought it's fine to, finance my engineering, which I could do more than I ever imagined. I came to Leh to teach only to finance that year's college, and I thought next year I'd earn for the next year's. My course was so successful that in that very winter, I earned enough for all the 3 years of engineering and even more. So that, in a way, uh, demonetized me, if I may say. I lost the craze for money at that early age, when all engineering students are about going for the highest paying job and all that. I could see that I can make in 2 months enough for more than for 3 years. So this can be done anytime. There are more interesting things. There are so many bright minds shackled in this system that makes them feel good for nothing, but they are so very bright. So it's much better to do something important for their lives. And that was a time when I say I had this realization that life is not just about what I need, it's more about what needs me. And I saw in these bright children that changing something about this system and helping them needs me more than the system needs an engineer. So I started thinking more and more from then about engineering some change in the system so that these children are not made to feel like failures for no fault of theirs. After I finished my engineering, with half my mind and heart already into education, I quickly started with fellow friends system of teaching more of such students who were verge of failure. Soon we realized that if we keep repairing these broken products, we'd be doing this for decades, and the system will keep producing products for us to repair. A better solution is to go to the source and change it so that they're not broken in the first place. And you don't have to do the charity of helping them. They could be flying on their own. So that's when we started bringing reforms in the education system in every way possible, partnering with the government, training the teachers, changing the textbooks, organizing the people into village education committees to take ownership of the school. And very soon results started showing. The 5% pass went up to finally 75, but we were not happy with that because even 25% is a large number. Nobody should come out with the feeling of failure after spending a quarter of their lives. So we started focusing on those who were failing still. And we made a special school for them, for those who failed. The criteria of admission was that they failed, not their marks or percentage. And we were more than surprised that if we teach the way they learn, rather than, if they didn't learn the way we teach, things are very, very different. Children often are more oriented to learn by doing things rather than just listening or scribbling. This is anyway not a natural way that human young ones learn, or any young ones learn in nature. They always learn by experiencing. So we designed for them to experience things and learn. And the magic was that I'll give some examples. One student who had come had failed 10th grade 5 times before he came to the school. And suddenly something sparked in him, and he got the confidence that I can do something. started working on his own day and night. Therefore, I feel it's not so much that we need to teach them, but we need to make them feel they can learn. We need to make them feel they are, able to, they can, that can do feeling is what we can by and large give them. And after that, they do most of it. We only need to just facilitate them. And if that can do, and confidence of and the desire to do, this spirit of doing it yourself, the drive within doesn't come, then you can arrange the best of labs and equipments and smart classes and things. They won't want to make use of them. So therefore, I have seen that this spark, whenever it rises in a student, they start doing everything it takes, because now it's the onus is theirs. It's not the teacher's burden to make them study or learn or something. As long as they are driven, they drive their own path. And this student very soon started shining. He would say, I was contemplating suicide before coming to the school, and very soon he did very well and went out, became a journalist, and later he was taken into politics by the village to represent them, and he became the education minister for the Hill Council of Ladakh. A 5 times failure, not because we did some magic in teaching this person, but because that spark is what happened, and then he taught himself. So there are many such stories where the lost souls discover themselves. And that's the best part, I feel, of teaching, because you can make people do their whatever it takes and achieve their dreams. And it doesn't take too much from a teacher or a school, but it makes such a world of difference in them, from thinking they are nothing to feeling that they can do and achieving what they want to. This was my own story, and I've seen it repeated in so many students, especially from this category of those who were failing. So if those who the so-called failing can do so well, of course others can do even better or equally good, as long as they are given this environment of self-worth and confidence to do. And yeah, that's what I would say a teacher can do best, is to give them this self-worth and this can-do self-respect and esteem. And I have seen many such students from very rough and difficult backgrounds. Once they know the game and to play it, they do very well when they are driven by their own energy within. So I would say that teaching is one of the most fulfilling engagements you can ever get into, because you can change the lives of others. And when you see one such life change, that becomes your inspiration. Many people ask me, so who is your inspiration? I really don't think of any big and famous person as my inspiration. And I'm happier that way, because such inspirations sometimes, turn out to be different, and you lose all your hope and everything. So it's better, I feel, than pinning your inspiration on a so-called big and famous person, than to draw your inspiration from your own work that had an impact. If you take your own work and the impact that it has as an inspiration, then it lasts, and it's from within. And that is the most sustained way of feeling good about what you did and drawing energy from the impact of the last work to do the next one. That's how I, in my case, look at things. And secondly, I think it's not even necessary to have an inspiration or some great, packet of energy from somewhere. I feel that being human, we should have the empathy to do things to help others grow or learn, and it should not need some outwardly or outside energy. Just as I often say, if you see your house is burning, you don't need an inspiration to throw water, run around with buckets, and you don't really say, this person inspired me. It's not at all surprising. It's just you're doing your duty. So if there is a problem, if children are finding it hard to understand, if children are failing, you should not have some special great inspiration. You should just be inspired by the challenges they are facing and the promises they hold if someone did something. And that should, the natural human instinct of compassion should drive you rather than some special person preaching. So that's what I would say. And I am really, really happy to engage with so many people who believe in sharing this energy with young people who are doing various things themselves and yet find the time and energy and see the importance of touching lives and changing lives. And I'm sure many of these students you're touching will make wonders and will remember you for being a part of that. And even if they don't remember, just the fact that things change for them is more than good enough to see and smile and find the energy for the next good thing that you do. That's all I would say. Thank you very much.
So now we have a storm of questions. Most of which
Inspiring, isn't it?
So few of them you've already addressed. So this one is a student come teacher currently in the state where you were in your engineering days. So this is from Avantika Ghosh, an undergraduate student who's been a volunteer teacher with eVidyaloka for past 2 years. And her question is, would like to know how you motivate students to cross barriers in life and pursue the goals.
And pursue goals.
Yes. So this question is from a student come teacher.
Yeah. So what I do is, first of all, make them see the bigger picture, where if they are not motivated, if they are not successful, then they can see that it is a much bigger picture and that it is not just them bad or not good in whatever it is. It's a bigger picture of many interrelated things, and then, I mean, take them out of this self-blame and self-pity and so on, and then make them see that they can do. There are examples in their own lives when they have done and succeeded, and to bring this hope and energy that they can do something that they want to, and then to appreciate and admire at every little step that they do well, rather than to accuse them or tear them down when they are not able to. helps them shape them better than by telling them where they're wrong and where they have not done well. But when they do things right and achieve something, make them as springboards for further effort. And that's when they become self-driven. And that's really the key. If they become, I feel a teacher's role is to bring the student to the point where they are self-driven. Yeah.
Thank you, Sonam. Okay, a series of questions on one single aspect. The first one, I'll read out all of them so that you can answer it once. The question is from Sai Vinay. Sir, we are glad to see you speaking with us. The world around us is completely concerned over the marks, irrespective of practical knowledge they have. The education system has corrupted. This is one. Then we have okay. Again, Sai Vinay adds on to his question by telling today's world, even for a smart child, due to the stress factor, the education and studies are turning as burden, and despite their talent, they are remaining as failures. So if you could throw some more light on this, and Mane, it's my personal thing, since this marks-based thing is being rampant. You've initiated this Institute for Alternative Learning and making learning different. So any bigger plans for HIL, because the rest of India also needs this kind of a concept. Over to you, Sonam.
Yeah, yes, I very much agree that education has more than something to strengthen people in the life they are to spend. It has become a ritual of competition and marks and so on. And more so in our country than others, I would say. Somehow we seem to be in some colonial hangover or something whereby certain things are considered so high in status and so on, that all other things which are equally important in our lives are artificially made to seem unsatisfactory or less good. For example, because of perhaps our British legacy, the civil services are considered the topmost things. And so many young people are stressed to do that, whether they are a manager or administrator inside or not. They are made to pursue that and work for the marks and whatever it takes. Or say engineering. It has become more like a badge or label than a skill that our society needs in the measure that it needs, not more, not less. But yet, given a chance, I think the whole 1.3 billion would like to become IIT engineers. Can you imagine if some God made you fulfill this wish, then we would be full of engineers, nobody producing food, nobody doing anything, just engineers or just administrators. We need in society every skill in the right proportion. And if we took them in the right proportion of respect and dignity, there won't be this artificial stress that we have created in society. Because some strange way, we think that engineering is the best thing for our young or our children. We make everybody run after that, whether they are made for that or not. And then we end up with the painters becoming engineers because their parents arrange for them the best coaching and so on. So they get into the engineering institutes and they deprive somebody who is meant to become an engineer, and that true engineer might become a clerk somewhere, and it would be a bad clerk in that job, and it would be a bad engineer because an artist has become an engineer, and an engineer has become a clerk or a soldier. So we end up with a skewed society where nobody's performing at their best, and therefore our products may not be the best in the world, because we are creating this artificial thing. So I feel if we need to decolonize our minds and this mystery around what is good and what is not, dictated by others in the society or some hangover from the past, if we became more rational and took pride in becoming a carpenter or a cook or a gardener, farmer, as much pride as in becoming an administrator in the IAS. We in India need to work more on our minds, really. I have been to so many countries in the world. I did not see any of them glorifying their administrative services. I didn't see a German administrative service as the in thing for all German youths. I didn't see the French administrative service as the thing that every young person wants. And when you have this kind of artificial, unfortunate, skewed system, then it becomes a stressful youth for every child. So I would say, rather than saying it's the marks and things, I think we need to come out of this as a country, and then every young person would be happily doing whatever they are good at, whatever they are made for, and this artificial stress will be free from. So we need another independence, an independence of the mind.
Yeah. Okay. So now I'll ask or take the questions from our local audience, that is our own team from eVidyaloka. Any questions?
Any questions?
Okay, I have a question.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you can come forward and
Zoom the camera. That's it.
So you just now spoke about engineering versus other courses, how there is a boom for people, for children to take up engineering courses and so on. So now I also see for this generation, they have a popularity about taking, or they have this in thing about doing for courses which are offered outside of India. So there are a lot of children of this generation who want to actually do courses, just not which are available within India, but outside of India also. Even the undergrad courses they want to pursue outside India. So it's one side it's a peer pressure, the other side, the other parents are putting in pressure, like my colleague's son is over here and there and so on. So what do you think you have to say this? Should the children be going out just because the courses and options are limited in India? Or, I just want to know your view on this.
Wonderful. Wonderful question. I feel very disturbed by this. I think again it is a manifestation of our lack of confidence in ourselves. Yeah? Each person's and the nation also. Again, maybe a hangover of our colonial past. We don't seem to believe in ourselves. We are always playing to the gallery of neighbors and the locality and the relatives and the circles of parents and so on. So in those circles, maybe our parents and we ourselves think that going out somewhere will be seen as a dignified thing, and we do that. We don't seem to have this confidence that it doesn't matter what others think. The best of the kind that I want is right here in India, when it is there. When it is not there, we should have the bigger vision that a country becomes not great just by, wishing. If we go to America or go to England or whatever, France, they didn't do it just by sleeping. They patronized the institutions in their own country, and that's how those institutions became great, and that's how it draws people from other places. So for Indian institutes to become great, we'll have to, patronize them, we'll have to subscribe, and that's when our own institutions will be great enough to actually attract students from outside. So we are somewhat on this sort of loser approach, where we go for anything that is better elsewhere, rather than having the patience and the vision that if we support our own systems, if not in our generation, in the next generation, the world will come to our institutions. That picture, I don't know if people can see, but definitely I think we need to become more self-confident in doing what we do for ourselves rather than for our neighbors or for the locality and the relatives and so on. So it's all about that confidence. Every time I did something, people almost all the time at the initial stages ridiculed and thought it will never work, and it's so on and so forth. But if you stand your ground and persevere enough, then things prove themselves. So I would think that any young person who sees that it is available in India, the last thing to influence us should be the image or impression that it gives, as long as it is available. Now, if it is not available in India, if it is something that you really go to seek from somewhere else, by all means, we should go. If it is Sanskrit, the world should come to India to study. If it is Hebrew, we should go to Israel. If it is desert technologies, why not Israel? Ocean, somewhere else. But things that we are good enough in, I don't see any reason for us except because of the insecurities or so. And those should not be reasons for a nation.
The last question, I would like the other panel members who are online, if you have any questions to Sonam. Yeah, Tejo.
You're on mute. He's on mute.
Yeah. So, Sonamji, it was really, really inspiring to hear you speak. It's an honor for all of us to be here. So just wanted to mention that before I ask my question. My question is more about how do you see language, the medium of instruction? How important is that in today's education? Because all of us being teachers at eVidyaloka, we teach in the local languages. So we know we've been, at least most of us have been educated, like have been taught in English as our medium. So, and we also see that we reap those benefits today, working in different parts of the world or different parts of the country where English is predominantly used as a language in all of the offices. So do you see that as a barrier, or where do you see it going?
Very, very, very good question. It's a very, very important part of how we build our nation, I feel. English is important, yes, but the way to get to good English speaking person or future is not through using English as the medium in early education. That is disastrous and damaging, I feel. Instead, if every state, I would say every region of every state, encouraged the mother tongue, which is like you have an arsenal of tools and weapons to deal with the understanding of the world from mother's womb. That is your mother tongue. To not use that, to set aside that great sophisticated tool and give in your hands something just acquired, hardly acquired, crude, and not yet even smooth, to understand the world is a big barrier for any child. Now, if every child in the early years of education gets to learn in his or her mother tongue, I won't even say Hindi, Where it is Hindi, surely. But if it is not, then the mother tongue, Punjabi, Dogri, whichever. That's when the child gets confidence about understanding the world. And once the child has confidence and the proficiency in one language, acquiring another, believe me, doesn't take long at all. English could be acquired at any stage once you are very good in your own language. At 8th grade, at 10th grade, many acquire much later. But we have this, I think, a misunderstanding that because India, or much of the private schools in India at least, does its education in English medium, we are better off. I really don't think we are better off. We are better off only to become second class service industry for the world. We can take, back end jobs for these countries. We can never lead them in their thing. That we can do if we acquire our original thinking in our own languages, and then acquire these languages to communicate that understanding and the skills we have to the world. So I would say English alone is good enough to become an okay economy, which is at the service of these countries who lead the way in the world. But if you want to lead the world, then it has to start with your own mother tongue and the confidence it gives you, and then English to change the world and rule the world. Thank you.
Any more questions from the panel members? Okay, we will now, the last request, Sonamji, is you've understood eVidyaloka yesterday. Any message to all the volunteers and all of us as a community at eVidyaloka, if you can inspire us further?
Yeah, I'm very, very inspired, first of all, that you have created this platform where so many people can engage in doing something that they are interested in touching many, many lives. And in teaching, I have seen, long ago, I used to deal with the problem of too many children in my class by making the stronger students help the weaker ones after the class. It's kind of peer teaching where I would identify the stronger ones and put them together with the weaker ones after holding a special session for the stronger ones. And I would see magic happening, miracles happening. Definitely the weaker ones became good, but what I saw was that the stronger ones became stars. So teaching is an amazing way of learning, of keeping our minds active. So I really think you're doing a great favor to the students you are teaching, but you are doing a greater favor to yourselves. So by engaging in keeping your mind alive and thinking of plans of how to convey these intricate things to your students. So it's an amazing win-win journey. And I'm so happy that you have provided this platform to do it at a much larger scale than possible otherwise. So a force multiplying impact that you have brought with eVidyaloka is amazing. And I really salute you for providing this platform for so many people who want to do something in their lives. And congratulations to each one of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonamji, for sparing this more than an hour of your valuable time and addressing all of us, inspiring. And we wish to have you online till we are done with this. So now we will go with the panel discussion.
So I just want to take this opportunity to thanks Mr. Sonam Wangchuk. We thought, who better can than him, an amazing teacher, to address actually the wonderful community of eVidyaloka volunteers. and actually take this opportunity to express gratitude to each one of the volunteers. More than 300 of them across the time zones from the globe are right now watching live. Thank you so much, and it's a pleasure to have Sonam today to talk to each one of you. So we're going to have a panel discussion followed by that. If time permits, Sonam, we really kind of request you can also follow to the panel discussion where we have 6 wonderful volunteer teachers from across the world, and kind of going to have discuss for 15-20 minutes. They represent the community in a way, actually. So of course, I mean, given your time availability, we request actually. So otherwise, thank you so very much for joining us today on this occasion. As Rishi said, it's actually a pleasure, and we look forward for this day every day. There's this opportunity that we actually express our thanks and recognition to the entire volunteer community. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Shall we?
Yeah. Ram is one of the trustees and is the moderator for this panel discussion. We have Hema Malini, Shamila, Tejo, Rekha, Rahul, and Swapnil online. They share the panel. Over to you.
Will you turn the?
Yeah.
You can see them here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's better.
So I don't know if I should wish good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good. So I think there are people in all time zones here. So good day, as Hara suggests. I think the one takeaway before we start the panel discussion, right? I mean, we've heard an extremely passionate and an exciting, inspiring again, speech from Sonam and from Hara. The takeaway that I actually thought, we should start the discussion with is, if you can groom the teacher in you, I guess you can bloom the learner in the child, right? So I think that's really what I took away from this, the last 30-40 minutes of a very passionate discussion. So before we start the panel discussion, I think the topic for today is the future of online teaching. I think there is a bit of a redundancy in the statement there that was coined. I believe that teaching is going to be online for all practical purposes in future. So it is the future of teaching for all practical purposes. As I was chatting with Hara a little while ago, we have today, for those of you who are watching this live from various parts of the world, we have a panel today, which is around the globe. So we literally have people from California to California. What do I mean? So we actually have Rahul Roshan, who actually works for Amazon. He is in California. A little eastward, we actually have Rekha, who actually is in Germany. Come a little eastward, we actually have Hema Malini, who actually is literally telling us all that we do teach from the living room. You can see her in the living room there. So she is in Trivandrum. We have Swapnil Srikhande in Pune. We have a little further eastward, we have Sharmila. She's actually in Singapore. And we also have Tejo, who is going back to California. So we literally have people in all time zones around the world. So round of applause. So maybe I will. I'm going to start the discussion with a question to Sharmila. I think she's in Singapore. A quick introduction to Sharmila. She is actually a maths teacher. She teaches the 7th class children in Dumdumi in West Bengal. So she obviously teaches in Bengali. She is a homemaker. She is a PhD scholar who actually finds a lot of excitement in teaching children in West Bengal. So my question to you, Sharmila, and you may have to go on mute there, is tell us a little more about what interaction experience is all about when it comes to online teaching. You may have to unmute, Sharmila. You're on mute. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. Yeah, Mr. Ram, can you please repeat the question?
Yes, the question I have for you is, you obviously have been teaching since 2016. That's more than 2 years. Yeah. Tell us what it means on the experience that you want to share to fellow teachers, to a lot of students. I'm sorry, I did not mention this before. For those of you who did not know, we actually have students who are glued on to the television across the 150 odd schools we run across the country. And children, you must be enjoying this. You have your favorite teachers out there talking to you. So my question to you, Shamila ma'am, is what would you have to say on the experience of online teaching when you interact with children? What's that experience all about?
Yeah. For me, this online teaching was in the beginning was a bit challenging one because I was accustomed to direct teaching in the classrooms and that also to the senior students in college. So when I got this opportunity to get associated with eVidyaloka and with the smaller children, in the beginning it was a bit challenging, but it was a rewarding experience, really. And I'm very happy now because when even from a distance when I teach, I also learn a lot from them. And I feel this, as Mr. Wangchuk said, that learning and teaching is a two-way process. We also get more knowledge and more deep understanding on the subject, or even we get to know to the different parts of society. And when this online teaching, I interact with the children, I feel that in the future, if more, I am sure that more and more schools will come under this umbrella of eVidyaloka. And if in the future, if more students of different schools, they interact with each other like that, like peer example or peer learning of different schools, they will be more encouraged. Like interaction between different states of the children, then they can overcome certain barriers also. They will be more aware of the whole community of our whole country. And also this sharing should be I feel it is a three sets. One is between the rural children of eVidyaloka, and also interaction between some urban schools are also needed, so that we all know that of course in the urban schools their facilities are much more, and their awareness also may be more. I'm not, I feel so. So if they also interact in a sustained way, that not once in a year, but every 2 months or every 1 month, if they has scope to interact with the urban children, they can share their knowledge, and they can, I think it will create a more harmonious society. And also, I feel we should, as teachers, should interact with their parents also. If they get the idea, then we have the idea that what are the difficulties our children are facing, so that it will be easier for us to understand them, because we stay at far, so we don't know actually what are their backgrounds and or what are the difficulties. They may not open up to us, but if we have interaction with their parents, the parents can also uh, get encouraged, and they can also feel that yes, education is must. They should send their children regularly to the schools, because irregularity is a very big problem in these rural schools, at least in this the school where I.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you actually, I mean, you've touched about two very interesting topics, Sharmila ma'am. The first is about the fact that it's not a one-way communication, it's two ways. So there is
Absolutely.
both learning and teaching happening at the same time, and obviously the whole interaction about the urban interaction. I think there is a whole movement that we are actually now looking to drive with the NSIC, and I think hopefully we will actually have even more heights this year with urban interaction. Thank you, ma'am. That's a very interesting insight. Maybe I'll go across a few continents, across to, yeah, Sharmila ma'am, if you can go back on mute if you don't mind, so we can actually switch over to the next panelist, which is Rahul. And I'm moving a few continents from Singapore all the way to California. Rahul, you actually are teaching Chachkuda children, Chachkula Moti as them called, and the children who are watching there, I guess you can erupt in joy there. Here you're called out. In Jharkhand, the children have to say that you actually have a very subtle way of teaching things, Rahul, and that's a huge compliment from the children for you. So I'm going to ask you, I'm going to put you on a spot if you don't mind. So tell us about the most challenging situation that you faced, and particularly because you're teaching literally miles away. You're teaching from all the way from California to Jharkhand. Think about it. This is not virtual reality. It is real reality, as we call it. And we have Rahul going to share with us something about his most challenging situation. Go ahead, Rahul.
Yeah, hi everyone. So yeah, when I started back in 2014 December, I guess, the most challenging part then was teaching in the local language. I mean, my Hindi is pretty good, to be honest. But what happened when I started teaching was that since we were taught in English medium, I started thinking in English and started to translate in Hindi and try to communicate it to them. And for me, I mean, it's not a challenge for the students to obviously grasp. Maybe for me to start speaking in Hindi and fumbling across was pretty embarrassing, because I mean I knew my Hindi was great. But yeah, slowly and steadily it caught up. Things started changing, and with experience you kind of try to communicate more easily with the students. So yeah, initially those things came up, and then once I had that experience, the most difficult thing was to identify the weak students, passive students mostly. So those students who are not very active, although human interaction is what I kind of craved sometimes. Maybe I wanted to peek into their books, looking at what they are actually scribbling, because sometimes you don't get to see that. And so those were some of the things. And then I tried to encourage them to come right up to the screen, show their work to me. So this took time, like for example, a year, I would say, for them to come up and speak up, be comfortable with me. And then sometimes, I mean, I think in 14 and 15 it happened that by the time I was comfortable with the batch changed, because it took like me 11 months to get to know them, and they were like quite comfortable with me, and then suddenly new batch of students, and then you have to do the things again. So yeah, you learn, because you now try to make it happen sooner. And yeah, obviously in all these bundle of challenges, the top one is the technical problems. You get disconnected, and you sometimes start speaking the whole sentence, and you see people gawking at you, which means that they have not even got the whole sentence, because it got chopped off because of the internet problems. So yeah, those are the things. Right now my biggest challenge is to maybe manage student studies, because I know they're having a hard time even managing their own studies, how to manage this. Like for example, in the last parents teacher meeting, I got to know that the parent was telling me that he plays a lot. Now, playing is not a bad thing. I mean, for me, it really worked. I mean, I'm a good basketball player, and it really refreshes my mind to work and, and to do the good things. And obviously, I mean, being great at sport is like a great thing. You're loved by women, So those are the things. So I really wanted to help that child to, manage his study and his personal life, which at this point in time is his play, the playing time, the fun time. So I think this is maybe will improve if we have some one-on-one interaction or something, but this also calls for more time. So let's see how we curb this challenge. Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, all in Hindi, and I think for those of you viewers who actually may not be aware of eVidyaloka model yet, The parent-teacher meeting he's talking about is an online parent-teacher meeting. Here's a teacher sitting in California dealing with parents who actually, for all you know, may not necessarily be fully literate. They are coming from, you know, real remote rural villages, some of them at least. And you actually have a conversation with them in just Hindi. I guess this is the real test of your Hindi there, Rahul. And you know what? I mean, here he is actually managing not just the education, but the managing of the learning of the child. And it's fascinating to hear you say that, you know, it's no longer about the teaching part, but the managing of it that you're looking as the next sort of challenge. Excellent. And I think, you know, there is someone else who's really passionate about virtual reality and augmented reality. So I'm going to switch continents again. I'm going to Europe here. We have Rekha, who's in Germany. Just a quick introduction to Rekha. She is a graduate from REC, a postgraduate from Indian Institute of Science. She used to work for DRDO and Honeywell. She teaches. She has the privilege of all the panelists here. She has the privilege of teaching 2 schools in Karnataka, Hanuman Kopa, children you're watching, and Veerapur. So here we have Rekha ma'am. Rekha Kudlugi is a passionate teacher, and she is supposedly keeping the children enthralled. And this is feedback for you, ma'am, from your children, that you actually are a very special teacher because you actually teach them with online games. Now that's interesting, right? So here's a question that is really futuristic for you. Tell us a little more about online teaching that you see with your favorite and passionate topic on augmented reality and virtual reality.
ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ, ಶಿಕ್ಷಕರ ದಿನಾಚರಣೆಯ ಶುಭಾಶಯಗಳು. Yeah, so when we talk about virtual reality and augmented reality, I feel definitely as the world is moving more towards digital, the communication, the way we talk, the way we learn, the way we engage with each other is becoming more digital, and it's very important for children to actually get engaged into this digital world so they don't get marooned out. So in addition to that, when we talk about virtual reality and augmented reality, what happens is you're sitting in a remote school in Karnataka, let's say Veerapura or Hanmakoppa. You have constraints of cost, and you cannot probably reach out to all different parts of the world. But sitting in your own school, you get a chance by wearing a goggle or wearing a glove, and then being able to reach out and be physically there at a place, almost maybe let's say in a museum, or let's say look at the world in a 3-dimensional space, and you can also be able to turn it and study it in your own pace. So virtual reality, I feel, is going to be the future. And just like Sonam sir was just talking about the experiential learning, where children get to experience things and they learn better, their retention also improves, and that creates a kind of independent learning because they become curious, they start meddling with things, and they learn on their own. So I feel there's a lot of scope for augmented virtual reality, and especially now when Google has come up with a small cardboard box. It's not even expensive. You can make use of your presently available smartphone, convert it into your lens, and then use that cardboard box, and then you can just fix it up, and zoom, the whole world is at in your hands. So I feel this would definitely help our rural children to actually get connected with the globe and experience what the other children, so that they also don't feel that they're losing out. The cost is not a constraint, the distance is not a constraint, and they feel they are connected to the world. And it also makes them, confident, because they feel they're also aware of the digital technology, which all the rest of the children are, exposed to. So I feel this is a good way to go, even for eVidyaloka, in a very inexpensive way. But of course, we should have this monitored and as well as rationed, because of course, children have a tendency to get sucked into it, and everything needs to be given in this form, and only then they find it interesting. So we need to have it monitored and rationed, is what I feel.
Brilliant. Thank you. Amazing, Rekha. So very interesting takeaway, right? We always knew language is not a constraint in eVidyaloka. For the 400 viewers who are watching us from all over the globe, this is probably one of the very few institutions in this country where at the same point of time, and we are no BPO call center here, the same point of time, we speak 7 languages in this place, right? And it takes a lot of pride for me. I keep saying this in many forums that, in many other institutions, India works for the world, the time zones of the world, but here we have the whole world working for the school time zone of India, right? So, here you just mentioned that, language is not a barrier, cost is not a barrier, distance is not a barrier. Yes, geography is history in eVidyaloka, right? Now, I'm going to talk to a very sweet person next. He has a Srikhand in his name, Swapnil Srikhande. He is actually based in Pune. He teaches, the other teachers we spoke about are all mathematics teachers. Swapnil is an English teacher. Lucky you actually teach English in Marathi. So he teaches to the children in Atikya Khandala in Maharashtra. He is a IT professional. He's based in Pune. And his passion, and if I may switch over to you, Swapnil, you've been talking about a lot about innovation in online teaching, and you're particularly passionate about innovation. So talk to us about innovation and what you have to say to all our fellow viewers here. You're on mute, if you can unmute, please.
Yep, sure. Thank you. So I'll start with the story actually. Once one student asked my guru, my teacher, that have you invented something someday, right? So, and he said, yes, I've invented so many students, right? So I think at the core of teaching is, can we invent innovations is a different way of thinking. If we don't focus on the technological side, so if we are able to, and I think most of the eVidyaloka teachers and also the teachers at their school are doing this, they're trying to help students learn to think differently, not to think how society wants them to think, but think in a different way. And if we are able to help them inculcate that, then it's a real innovation from our side, I believe. On the other hand, moving on to online teaching, yes, innovation, there's a lot of scope for innovation, I believe. And I believe the innovation, the real scope is how we use it, rather than trying to devise something new, right? So like we saw the ice stupa, right? So it is such a simple concept. It is just the way it is used. And also for eVidyaloka, I'd like to say is all the power which we get in the eVidyaloka platform is the way it is organized, and not the technology or any fancy technology being used to run it, right? So I'm coming from a technology background. I always imagined, or always thought, dreamed of working on cutting edge technologies. But as I moved forward, and after seeing eVidyaloka, I came to the conclusion that the real utility is not how cutting edge or how fancy the technology is, but how it is used and implemented. So yes, as also Rahul mentioned, that we have a lot of challenges, particularly related to technical connectivity. There are new technologies, new innovative technologies like peer-to-peer technologies, which can help us to overcome such challenges. And I believe we can work together to solve those problems. And taking this platform, I'll also like to invite all the programmers out there who can come together and develop such technologies and help us this challenge, wherein we need to connect with people from remote villages where bandwidth is very low, or we lose bandwidth a lot. So yes, so I think it's a really exciting time to design new technologies where the main aim is not innovating something for the sake of it, but how much value it will add to the lives, right? So that is the main aim I think we should focus on.
Extremely valuable comments there, Swapnil. I may just want to extend this. I mean, the point you made is technology is as good as it's put to use. May I extend it a little bit to say that each one of us, our own lives are as good as we put to use, right? So here you are actually putting your time and your contribution to real good use to really make an impact to the society. And thank you. I think this is very, very important, and I would like to acknowledge you there, Swapnil. I'm going to switch over to back to the US. We have Tejo. Tejo teaches a village in Malela Vajralu in Andhra. He teaches 7th grade children. He teaches them mathematics. He's been one of our very young old teachers. He's been teaching since 2014. You know, the claim to fame, Tejo, that I am hearing your children say that Tejo sir is very good with teaching us shortcuts. The great Indian shortcut. So I think you may need to keep it, make this a more valuable insight for everyone. So talk to us about your ability to actually leverage this platform. It's one thing to actually teach them physically when you are in person, but to actually do this remotely and make them actually get excited with innovative ways and shortcut ways, as they call it, in solving maths problems. So maybe you want to share with us some insights there.
Andarki namaskaram andi. Guru Puja Dinotsava Subhakankshalo. So hello all. Very interesting question. Actually, I do teach a lot of shortcuts, but I never got this feedback back from the students that they actually enjoy learning them. So I was actually like pleasantly surprised. Before I talk more about shortcuts, I just wanted to say, like Rahul said, when I joined in 2014, when Venkatji had this brief interview with me, and he asked, why do you want to join eVidyaloka? And then I said, I just want to give back to the society. That was the only line I had. But as I started teaching, first thing, like there was this big challenge of like learning how to teach in Telugu and then teaching it to the kids. So that was the biggest challenge I had. But in the process, I started learning more. I started loving my language even more than what I used to. And there were times where I used to go back to my mom and dad and ask them their childhood memories of like when they were studying 7th standard, like what are their experiences. Sometimes I used to go back and ask them these technical Telugu math terms, like, is this what it's called? Or like, it was amazing. It was just amazing. At least my first year was like such a fun ride for me, challenging and amazing. And then I've just a disclosure, I was a very bad math student at school. Almost till my high school, I was really bad at maths. So I think it was during my last year of school, probably my 10th grade. That's when I had this wonderful teachers who inculcated this amazing spirit in me, like, okay, you can do math. Like a person who was scoring 50% in math in up to 9th grade, I was able to score 90 plus in my 10th. So how did this happen? So I started reliving my days, going back to my school days, and what were the shortcuts? Or I mean, it's technically not shortcut, but it's like Sonamji said, it's that spark that ignites in you, and then that takes you miles forward from there. So I think that's the spark. You try to ignite that spark in your kids. So whatever it is, whatever works, you have to discover it, and it's an amazing journey to go there as well. And coming back to the platform, how we are using it, I just wanted to make like one quick comment where all of us are so excited about watching a movie or television, or like 1 year or 2-year-old kids, like right from now, they're watching rhymes and everything on YouTube. So we already set the standard that there is this big TV, and then you see a person there, like probably teaching from miles away, trying to talk to you. So that itself creates a lot of buzz in the students, especially primary school and middle school students that we are teaching. So that itself does half of our job. It's like they have their 100% attention towards us. So we just need to encash that attention and take it a little further. So I think eVidyaloka is an amazing platform for that. And like all of the other panelists and my fellow teachers spoke, I've been taking notes here for all the ideas that they've given. I think all of them put together, I think it's gonna go, it's just gonna go much further. So yeah, that's what I think. Thank you.
Brilliant. That's very interesting. And what you just said, there were two phrases, Tejo, that I took away from Sonam's speech this morning, and it's also a favorite of my friend Hara, that we teachers are actually force multipliers, right? And what he just said is, it's. I know you said you were average in maths in your school, but I guess now you are much better, and multiplication in the real sense. And this is real force multiplication. In fact, the other phrase that was used by Sonam is, we are all springboards. Yeah, that's an amazing word, right? So it's not, we used to be, the old adage that I used to refer is, teachers are ladders, but better than ladders, we actually are springboards. I mean, you actually get them to be jumping at a multiple. So amazing conversation with you, Tejo, and thank you for that valuable input. The last person in the panel, but I would say the most experienced of all, is a teacher by profession. We have Mrs. Hema Malini. She's in a place called, she teaches in a place called Konamangalam in Tamil Nadu. She is, as we speak, she is in Trivandrum. She has been a teacher. She's retired, but not retired yet from eVidyaloka. She's young at eVidyaloka and a long way to go, ma'am. And you obviously have been teaching since 2014. You've been teaching maths for children. Firstly, thank you. I think, it's great to have teachers who actually have been teaching all their lives to actually now continue doing it in the eVidyaloka platform. So I'm going to ask you, ma'am, a question that probably only you can answer, or fellow teachers as yours can answer. Tell us about, in all your career, when you were actually teaching in person, as compared to how you're teaching now, online, remote. You're sitting in Trivandrum, teaching children in Tamil Nadu. Tell us about this. How does it compare and contrast from what you have done all your career then and what you're doing today? You're on mute. If you can unmute, please.
Okay, can you hear?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Ellarkum vanakkam. As he said, Hema Malini, Konamangalam Panchayat Union Primary School, class 5 maths in the varsham edukran nanu. Thiruvananthapuram inga naanga settle ayirukom. As he said, I may be the most senior teacher. My first appointment was in June 1977. Many of you wouldn't have been born by then. That was also in a remote place in Arunachal Pradesh. Soon after my college, I started teaching in Arunachal Pradesh. It was a tribal school. 90% of the students were tribals, first-time learners, and their parents were not literate parents. I mean, these children were the first-time learners, and we had to bring them. We had to insist on coming to school, and they were asked to stay in the hostel. Government spent a lot of money for their education. And I was just out of college even before the results were out. So I was also new. So it was a challenge. And in the due course of my 3 years stay with them, I understood for you to be the best teacher, you will have to understand them better. It was not about academic. So academically, they were all good. They could do a lot of creative things. They could write poems. They could sing. They could draw all beautifully. They could do. And to be a student, we had to teach them because they are all first-timers. And the place belonged to them, and we were the strangers there actually as a teacher. Suppose you tell them, you please, when you are entering the class, if the teacher is inside the classroom, you must ask them to excuse you because you are coming, other students are sitting. And then they would come with the reaction, see, this is our land, this is our place. And you are the stranger here. What is there? Why should I have to? That would be the kind of attitude they had. That had to be changed. So that was a real experience for me in the beginning. And then I understood once you win their affection, it was all when we had to leave after 3 years to get settled in life. And I mean, they all wept bitterly. And so that was the, so I understood that was the secret. You will have to know them better. Okay, so from there it goes on. I have been teaching continuously, and as somebody said, teaching and learning are the two sides of the coin. When I say I teach, I also learn. I endorse many views said earlier. This is all I learn from them. As initially when the eVidya started, when I had my interview with Mr. Venkat Sriram on 14th July night 2014, I remember very well. And I was also wondering how I am going to be teaching in the local language. All that apprehensions were there, but I had to do a lot of homework also to be effective in the class. But now I think I can do it without, I can just take it, I can walk into the system and I can do the work. And physically teaching, yeah, of course, you get to know the students better, and it takes less time to get to know them. Here also we know them, but I think it takes a little longer. You identify them using the position they sit, okay, and when they come closer to your cameras, okay, that way you get to know them. And because it is online teaching, it's not my job, doesn't end with academics, teaching the maths that I was supposed to do in that. Suppose somebody was absent, I ask them why he was absent. Okay, so next class I follow it up. Did you do that? Why were you absent? Okay, these things, then I understand them, understand their background actually. So that is one thing that is different in this, but still I try to minimize that gap by being, interacting with the students. And one thing we should say, these rural children are very, very interactive. They don't see you as strangers. Somebody was saying about the interaction between the urban school and the rural schools online. And I feel, in my view, I feel this urban school children should learn from these children. You ask any students studying in a big school, they may not, when somebody comes, they may not respond, they may not greet you, they may not, unless you ask them something, okay, they will not volunteer anything. But these children, the moment I enter the class, all these children together, they ask, Miss, Miss. So, they're so caring and they're so interactive. And I think the culture of these rural children should go to the other part of the, other areas, other urban and semi-urban schools. That is one thing, this nature of these children. And other than that, of course, in the long journey, the things have changed, technology has improved. Once upon a time, we had to make, during my internship and all, I had to make charts to make the things better. I had to do the things to make it interactive. I will have to show them, I will have to draw the charts. But now everything is available, plenty of resources. Anything you can want to communicate effectively. If you are not able to draw, you are just able to show the video. Say Pythagoras theorem, when you say two squares, some of the areas of these two squares is equivalent to that, you can just show them with the pictures. It will be understood better. So these are the things that here when I was teaching in Trivandrum in 90s, I wanted to give them, discuss decimals with them. I wanted to do it online. We did it as a part of our project, and I wanted to show them. We had no facility at that time. So I took the effort of bringing the students to a computer center in the city on a weekend day. And I got it. I got some systems for them, logged in, and then I gave them the software. I installed the software, and for them to work on. Everyone enjoyed. Now also, when I meet the old parent, oh miss, that day you had taken them for that. The parent remembers. The parent remembers. So that was a thing that we could do those days. But now it is all very easy for us. So that is what is the difference. The resources are plenty. And our online teaching also, if we could train our local teacher available there to use these resources, she can download and she can keep. And if suppose our power interruption and network going down are not something that can be avoided. So we will have to know how to overcome that. So the teacher can also download earlier and she can go ahead with that. So classes won't be disturbed. That you can do. Other than that, I think once, when I started teaching, the teachers had the freedom to tell the students, this is wrong, you are supposed to be doing this. Okay, we could correct. But these days, the children are so very protected and by the parents, by everybody. And when you say something, I don't know whether it is taken in the right spirit. That is one aspect which I see now. So that is so when the teachers had the freedom, they could tell when they go wrong. We could tell them how to, be in the right path. Okay, this value instilling the value, that was also a part of teacher's job. Now I think it is more of an academic job for the real-time teachers, I feel. But as a teacher, what I do, I feel the teaching is also learning. As long as I live, so long do I learn. That is very true. So I learn, and what I do, what I feel is I only just show them the way, and then they travel in that way. So I make them believe, if you think you can do, you can do. I was a teacher, we had the house responsibility. That was my slogan. If you think you can do, you can do. So that is the attitude that matters. So you will have to believe that you can do it.
You know, about this urban children and rural children, I'm going to share a small anecdote that happened last year. We have this, program which is what we have, Joy of Connect, where we had the children from our villages connect with urban students of urban schools. If you can switch back to the, yeah. So we had this interaction, and the children, the urban child is actually talking to the rural child all over Skype. And the child says, you know what, in our school, we actually have a computer lab. And the child from eVidyaloka school says, you know what, our regular classes happen in the computer only. So it's a very different paradigm. It's an extremely different world out here. I think, do we have time for asking some few questions? So you're running out of time. Okay. So I guess we did overshoot a little bit on our time, but it's been, we all are, as we call ourselves, as learners in the process. It's a pleasure to actually be in the middle of so many teachers, seekers, and learners. And as each one of you had confined that you actually are a teacher yourself, so a learner yourself, and therefore it's a pleasure to be in the company of young learning minds. If with that, if I can hand over back to Pawan.
Yeah. So all these questions. Thanks, Ram, and all the panel members for waking up early, spending your
and staying up late night.
Staying up late night for this event. Now we'll also I make it a point that these discussions do continue. You can post your questions, comments. Panel members Ram, Hara, and Sonam will have access to those. They'll continue to answer, not forever, but to a certain
till the next panel discussion.
Till the next panel discussion. Next event, yes, this will be there. You can continue the discussions and more of brainstorming sessions. Now, time for some surprise. This is now getting into the special announcements we have this Teachers' Day. I would like to ask Venkat to take over. There are two special announcements. Yeah. When he joins in, maybe I'll yeah, over to you.
Yeah, all right. I think we kind of have little exceeded on the time, but I'm sure it is definitely worth it. Another 5 more minutes, and we'll be kind of wrapping up for the day. It's kind of, I'm excited to share 2 interesting value additions that we are bringing to the table on this platform. And the first one is that we are launching the eVidyaloka mobile app today. You can actually go to Play Store and select, search for eVidyaloka, and it's of course, available for Android right now. Some point I'm sure we will be getting out for the other platforms as well. The key, I think, thing is it's primarily targeted for the teachers, since we thought actually it would be a great time to announce this and share it with the entire volunteer teaching community. We had it there for quite some, for some amount of time, kind of made it a little more functional and usable now. You actually can, the new people who are signing up can actually sign through the process here using the app up to actually selecting your discussion. For the practicing teachers, you actually can manage your sessions here. I know, I'm sure, the coordinators get behind your back for updating the attendances and sessions. We try to make that a little simpler, where you actually can mark your attendance and the topics and coverage right from your phone. And of course, we also try, less spam on emails and probably just be more friendly in notifications on mobile. So some of the things coming up. And of course, for teachers who are in process, while they sign up and onboard, they actually can look up the opportunities that are available. It's been published in the mobile app. So the whole idea is to kind of make this a bit more, a lot more even accessible, so that you spend most of your time in teaching for the children. I'm very glad to kind of see you actually can go right away and then sign up, because the next announcement is kind of involves using that app. So if somebody, of course, we always can do that few minutes later as well, actually. So so that's one I really want to kind of share with the audience, and go ahead and download, and of course feedback is welcome. We will continue to improve over the multiple releases of the same. Yeah. For why we'll do it. Yeah, and then the second announcement that we want to have is while actually we are not satisfied with just probably 900 people. There are over millions of children waiting. And as again, the theme kind of emerged out of this whole conversation is about how we can force multiply. And what better than can each one of you here, help actually go ahead and get more people on board and do it here. So again, as part of that, and before I kind of talk about that, maybe I'll request Hara a little bit and tell how somebody can actually create an influence and make this as a larger movement, and we together as a society can come around and participate and probably reach every million school. That's really is our aspiration, where the child is not, every single child is not deprived of actually access to quality education. I'd like to request you to launch this a small program called Influencer, which essentially is having some people on board who have been practicing and believe in the cause, and can help actually bring more people on it in a more structured, programmatic way. This launch is about influencer. If you can talk a little bit about that concept, Hara, I can probably tell the mechanics on how someone can enroll for the same activity.
Sure. So I can stand here.
Yeah.
No, I think I'm sure you all have a bit of photos of mine. Yeah,
that's okay. You can sit also.
I'll sit. It's fine. So normally, things like passion, enthusiasm, curiosity, these are all very, what you say, they are like, I'm finding the right word, I'll come to that. Essentially, those are contagious. You know what is contagious means? Normally, we associate contagious with something like diseases, but essentially when you smile, you automatically get a smile back, right? When you demonstrate enthusiasm, you automatically get demonstrated that enthusiasm. Same is the question about the passion. You don't need to use any words. Even on, and all of you have demonstrated that through the medium, those attributes of caring, interest, enthusiasm, curiosity, etc. So for me, I have only one word. To be a key influencer, you need to be authentic. Authenticity comes from various aspects. It's not about how much you know, but it's all about how much you are believing in that and how much what is the kind of a conviction you have. So particularly these students, when they are looking at even through this medium, they look at that conviction in you, and that's why they look up to you, right? So I think it is important that, for example, when I sent out a mail on Teachers' Day, so sorry, not mail, a message. I'm not on Facebook these days. So I just wanted to tell people that I am getting back to teaching, right? And I sent a message within a matter of few minutes, more than 100. I mean, it's not that you count the likes part of it, but essentially people do believe, and people can say, and when there were hundreds of messages and all those things. But I was actually, first of all, surprised so many people were there on Facebook. But more importantly, I wanted to convey the message through one of the social media that, look, I believe in this and I'm getting back to this. So when you are passionate about it, you talk about it in various fora. You demonstrate it. So for example, everybody in my workplace, they greet me Happy Teacher's Day every year because they know that I associate with whether eVidyaloka or any other teaching events. I mean, in fact, we run a school in Hyderabad as well. So the idea here is, at least I'm telling from my personal experience, is that you live that. If you stand for something, you live that. That's how you promote the authenticity. It's not about sending a message once in a LinkedIn or a Facebook or Twitter or a mail, etc. You talk about it passionately every time, every place, over lunch, over dinner, like a mad person. So that is what gets registered, right? And that worked for me. Like for example, again, I can give you many examples. When we started in my previous journey of building a product, the Made in India product was not believed at all. And, and here I was early 90s talking about, look, 3/4 of the planet is covered by water and the rest of it is for us. And they said, either you are sarcastic or you smoke something. Because, neither India was known for software products, nor India was known for global banking. And, nor banks were known to change their core systems or whatever it is, like a shirt, so, and what are you talking about? But you keep saying that. That's what I learned from my mentor. I asked him once, why do you keep on saying these adages again and again? First time they scoff at it, so what is he saying? Second time they say that, what is he saying? So actually they listen. First time they don't even listen. They say that, something he's saying. Then they say that he's saying something. Then he says, look, boss, he's saying it so many times, so it is something important. Then he says that, so that's what it is. When he says that, look, in God we trust, rest all bring data to the table. So, there were many adages which became part of us. But it did not overnight, you keep on saying those. So if you have to be an influencer, you have to be authentic. And you have to be authentic, you cannot fake it. By definition, authentic means you have to believe, every pore of your body has to be believing in that. And, so when you talk about it, automatically smile comes, automatically there's a sparkle in your eyes, and that's what they notice. That's where they be taken as your advocacy. Otherwise, advocacy won't work. I hope that makes sense.
Fantastic. Who better than can actually someone from Hara? So with that, we announced the program of, call it as an influencer. Basically, you go about influencing on eVidyaloka and the opportunity, how people can participate. I would, if I may, if you permit, I may call it as people of India for the children of India. This really is the vision. I think we are all in it. So you need to basically download the mobile app. There's an option where about influencer. It's essentially you can actually enroll for this program, which simply means you actually, as Hara said, go about actually share this conviction. We're looking at probably 5 to 10 influencers for the next 1 month. For the existing people who are actively teaching, can help actually spread the word and bring more teachers. The program details will be available on the webpage and also shared with you as you enroll, and that probably will be selecting from the nominations for the enrollments that people have signed up for.
Yeah. Venkat, each one reach 10. That's what it should be.
Each one reach 10. Probably a great way to start this influencer program.
So we'll do that.
Yeah, yes. We will be simply multiplying by 150, 160 schools. We probably will be reaching 10 times, 1,500 schools, probably just by this.
And
the sheer power of the voluntary
Influencer program.
It's an influencer program. Fantastic. So, so with that, we come to conclusion of this event. Just a brief minute, we have Sonam as well. Thank you so much, Sonam, for being on there. Through the, I think it's really an honor for us, actually, I would say. So with that, I mean, a brief, I would like to thank each and every one who actually made this event happen. We really wanted to see, while our volunteers are spread across the globe, how we really can have all bring them together. And kind of, I think technology definitely answers the question. It's not a barrier in bringing the people for a particular purpose and a cause. And really, I think the mission is a driving factor. So thank you, Hara, for joining us today here. Sonam, it's a pleasure. Thank you, Vishi, Ram, and actually finding your time and making sure that we are actually with the core backbone of eVidyaloka, the volunteering community. And of course, thank you to the back-end team. I know, people have been really working through the entire team of eVidyaloka. Let's follow Raju, Pavan, Sumo, the entire team in making the thing happen today. I don't think I can single out anybody here, actually, right? I think it's
so there's the men in black and the women in blue.
The men in the black and the women in blue. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, folks, everyone, for making this. And last but not the least, our sincere gratitude to Mr. Sonam Wangchuk. It's just kind of, I think, for the spirit of volunteering, for the spirit of teacher, and for the spirit of this upliftment of this country. I think the future of this generation is going to determine the future of this nation. Thank you so very much, Sonam ji, connecting in all the way from Ladakh, making geography, as he said, a history, and inspiring us, helping us do more. I'm sure we will be reaching to more and more of the people and joining this journey. So thank you so much. With this, we'll actually end this program with the national anthem. We will raise for the anthem, please.
Janagana Jaya He Bharata Bhagya Vidhata Punjab Sindh Gujarat Maratha Dravida Uttara Ganga Vindhya Himachala Yamuna Ganga Uchala Jalati Taranga Tava Shubha Name Jare Tava Shubha Ashish Mare Gade Tava Jaya Gada Janagana Mangala Dayaka Jaya He Bharat Bhagya Vidhata Jaya He Jaya He Jaya He Jaya 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 He
Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.
We'll be going offline. Thank you so much, Sonam ji. We will just reach to you right